hundreds and thousands of young soldiers willingly to their death. Would you trust the government or the judiciary with your life?
Could I have another point of information?
Yes.
Well, the government does not, never did, in our modern history, send anybody to the death penalty. The decision is taken by an independent jury of free people who are utterly without, beyond the influence of the government, who meet privately in a room where neither the judge nor the prosecutor nor the police can go and decide whether the person has been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. And the government can't make them do it. And that is the basis of our justice system. The government does not decide who is punished. The jury does, people like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. But other sources that I've read show that the jury is liable to be flawed too. And there's been many cases.
Can't win in that case, can we?
Well, no, absolutely not. And many cases in America where, members of the jury have been placed there. We see public images of it. We see films about it. So, usually there is some truth in something.
Surely the argument is not for or about the existence of God and whose God-given rights. The argument is for acting within the law and justice and for protection of society. So this argument of whose God-given right is surely not applicable here.
Oh, I do think it is, because I'm not saying that it's not. My very argument is about the government and the justice and the people who are making the decisions. That's the point that I'm trying to make. If the DP, the death penalty, is to be seen as a deterrent, does it not then have to be legitimised and to sustain its own existence? And what could that lead to? So I'm going to quote history. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to. History, yeah, stands. History tells us about man's inhumanity to man, and that those with most power and what they've done to those with least power. Let's think that slob, Dan Milosevic, who killed lots of Bosnian Muslims, and of course Hitler has to come into it, Pol Pot, what happened in Rwanda, East Timor, it goes on and on and on. And that's just to name a few. Yeah, I read somewhere long ago, and this, when I knew that I was speaking here today, it made me start thinking back to when I was taking one of my degrees, and I read long ago that any society gets the criminals it deserves. I can't remember where I heard that or where I read that. This led me to think about a quote from an 18th century Belgian statistician who later became a criminologist. His name was Adolf Quetelet. And through his studies, he saw the regularities in social life such as murder, marriage, burglary and suicide. And he asserted that these crimes were a sign that forces as irresistible as those that keep planets in their orbit must govern social affairs. Bit of a mouthful, you can pick it apart. He identified this concept as statistical fatalism, and he stated the following. And I'm not saying actually, Peter and Will, that this is a good case, but it's something we need to be thinking about. He said society prepares the crime. The guilty person is only the instrument who executes it. He further went on to say that society, the state, includes within itself the germs of all the crimes committed, and that crimes are merely the consequences of its own organisation. This is a point that's picked up again by neo-Marxists who conclude that the economic systems produce the conditions which support high crime and murder rates. So to conclude, what did we say constitutes murder? If it's based on the mindset that murder takes place by the willful taking of a life or lives by a person or people who are wholly responsible for their actions, then we must consider the NIMBY, not in my backyard, corporate murderers who dump thousands of tons of toxic waste somewhere over there, but not in my backyard. Isn't that killing thousands of people or murdering thousands of people? Or governments who have willfully lied to their citizens and set about the unlawful and wrongful or wronctious killing of hundreds and thousands of innocent men, women and children in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Tunisia and the rest. Are they not murderers? Would they be the first in line if the death penalty were to be brought back? Or would they be exempt? What about the unscrupulous food manufacturers who for years have been shoving hidden transient fats and sugars down our throat, getting us hooked on the sugar trap, creating illnesses which ultimately can lead to death? Are they not two murderers? Should they receive the death penalty? Just how many people in a fair and unbiased system would need to be put down? Based on the above, it may almost equate with a culling, which is usually best left to nature. And finally, should the death penalty be reintroduced? I feel not. I think there needs to be much more long-term based, less lenient sentences with no parole. That may be one of the answers. There's not only one answer, there's many answers to be considered. Maybe restorative justice for some people may work. Maybe they will repent. Who knows? Maybe we should be investing more money into the central tenets of society, the family, education and communities. And I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Anderson. So that concludes our death penalty debate section of this afternoon. We will now take a second vote to see if anybody's opinion has changed. So please remain in your seats and a second voting slip will be brought to you. We will then have our Q&A with Peter Hitchens, where you can ask him any question of your choosing about any given topic.